Okay, you've got your 6 stacks of 5 all cut out and glued together into one single stack. So this is where we get the hardness, and it's hard to tell that this is actually 30 layers of paper glued together. I told you when you were cutting out that it was really important that you cut very neatly and carefully so that all of your edges would match up, and that was going to make your job easier when we got to this step. I've been working on mine a little bit, but I still have some outside edges that I need to work on getting very, very smooth so that they're all even. So what I'm going to do is I've been working kind of up in this little corner. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can use what's the sanding block here. Some people put the sanding block down on the table so that they just move their project across the sandpaper. Or some people will pick up the sanding block and move the sanding block across their project, but you can do it a lot of different ways. So I've been working on this little section here, but I need to still sand some of this section. So I prefer kind of leaving my sanding block down on the table and just moving my project across the sandpaper. Now if you're noticing that your sandpaper is kind of getting loaded up with lots of paper dust, just gently tap it on the table, but don't blow the don't blow the paper dust at your neighbor. It can cause people to sneeze, cough, have allergies, but we don't want to have any of that happen. So we're just going to put it down and we'll pile it all up and clean it up at the end of our class period. Once you have all of the edges all the way around smooth so that they're even, then what you're going to do is you're going to start working on rounding those edges so that we can start to expose some of those colors that are up and underneath. So the way I like to do that is I actually hold my sandpaper steady against the table, and then I just tilt my project at whatever angle I want to work at, and sometimes I vary the angle, and I rub the project against the sandpaper block and see how I'm angling so that I can sand and get that to be a rounded edge. And I'm going to do that then all the way around my project so that I've got this nice rounded edge and some of those layers of paper underneath starting to be exposed. I'm going to try to work in this little area here. Now what you might also find is as you're sanding, you may find that some of your pieces are maybe coming unglued. It's really important that you stop at that point and re-glue those areas and then go work on an area where the glue is completely dry. So I'm going to keep working just to round these edges here. Now if you're doing a pin, you're going to just round like this much. You're going to round on just the top side, but if you're doing a keychain, you're going to need to round both sides. However, if you're doing a pin, you still want to slightly round this back edge so that there aren't any sharp edges. Okay? You might find also that it works better to get into some of these smaller areas with just a regular piece of sandpaper that is not attached to the block. If you do that, that's fine. Either share a piece with a neighbor or make sure that you keep this in your cubby and use it next time. So we're going to continue doing that until we get all the way around the edge, front and back if you're doing a keychain, front if you're doing a pin. Now I anticipate that this process to get this all your edges smooth and to get just this much curved up over the edge should take you about 1 class period or maybe even into the 2nd class period. So the key is to really take your time and to do a quality job. Next time that we have class together, we'll start to work on doing some of those designs on the top and the bottom if you're doing a keychain. Don't worry about the hole for the keychain yet. We'll get to that. Cleanup process. Again, I've got a bunch of dust collected on my sandpaper, so I'm just going to gently tap that on the table to get that out of my sandpaper. I'm going to put this sanding block back in the box for another class to use. I'm going to put this piece of sandpaper in my cubby. I could even tear this in half. It's plenty for 2 people to share, but then again, put that in my cubby. I'll put this in my cubby. As for cleanup of the dust, remember we said we're not going to blow it all over everybody. You're just going to kind of use your hand and sweep it up into a little pile, and then sweep it off into your hand, and then take that to the trash and throw it away. Now you'll notice that you have a little bit of fine paper dust on your hands. Just a simple rinse at the sink, use a paper towel to dry, then bring that damp paper towel that you dried your hands with to come and then just lightly pick up, because there's still a fine paper dust on the table that you can then clean up, and then my next class doesn't have to have that paper dust collecting on their project.